Israel's far-right Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has announced a contentious new settlement construction in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Human rights groups say it would thwart the idea of a future Palestinian state. Mr. Smotrich says the decision is a reaction to plans announced by several countries to recognise a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September.
The illegal Israeli settlement of Ma'ale Adumim in the West Bank is once again attracting global attention. The brown patch of land in the background is where the controversial new construction is set to take place. More than 3,000 new homes for settlers will be built there if Israel's far-right finance minister gets his way. It's a move he hopes will put paid to the prospect of a Palestinian state forever.
Anyone who tries today in the world to recognise a Palestinian state will receive an answer from us on the ground. Not in documents, not in decisions or declarations, but in facts. In the facts of houses, in the facts of neighbourhoods, roads, and more Jewish families building lives.
Erecting thousands of housing units in what's called the E1 area would effectively split the West Bank in two and cut the territory off from East Jerusalem, the city Palestinians hope to have as their future capital. Opposition to expansion at this site has a long history. In 2005, Palestinian protesters and peace activists already tried to stop Israel from enlarging the settlement there, which, like all such settlements, is illegal under international law. At the time, the controversy was framed as a battle for Jerusalem and an effort to prevent the creation of what was called Greater Palestine by the then Finance Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Several years later, in 2012, as objections mounted, not just from the Palestinians, but also from the US and European countries, who saw the project as a threat to any future peace deal, Israel froze construction plans. Palestinians are furious that they're now being revived.
This decision is a colonial, expansionist and racist move, a direct threat that could ignite the entire conflict.
Now it seems it could become a reality in just a few months' time, in yet another blow to Palestinians struggling to survive.
Let's explore this with Hagit Ofran, who's with the Israeli peace movement Peace Now. She's responsible for their Settlement Watch project and joins us from Jerusalem. Welcome to DW. So we have the Finance Minister saying this plan is designed to bury the idea of a Palestinian state. Just explain to us how this would do that.
This plan is in the heart of the West Bank, practically preventing the potential development of any Palestinian state. It cuts the West Bank into two, to south and the north, and it's in the heart of the metropolis of the Palestinian state, which is from Ramallah, East Jerusalem, and Bethlehem, where they are supposed to be development. So it is a blow for a viable Palestinian state cannot be really developed if this will be an enclave of Israeli presence. And that's what our government is trying to do, to prevent a Palestinian state. And I believe it is a horrible thing for Israel, not only for the Palestinians.
All right. And so, but looking ahead, if this thing happens, it doesn't matter, if I can put it that way, as far as the notion of developing a Palestinian state until a Palestinian state is recognised and then someone wants to do something about it. And there's those are big steps, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we can say in brackets that building in E1 by Israel is destroying not only the Palestinian state, but also the Palestinian economy, the development, even under the occupation. But that's in brackets. The whole idea of having an independent and viable state side by side with Israel is an interest of Israel because we need peace. We see that going on with the conflict, with the brutality and with violence is not working, is not bringing us peace. And the only way even to defeat Hamas is by building a Palestinian state. So we need a Palestinian state. And what our government is doing is actually sentencing us to ongoing bloodshed instead of going to peace.
Mr. Smotrich says his announcement is in response to plans by countries like France, the UK and Canada to recognise Palestinian statehood in September at the General Assembly. Should we therefore take this as conditional? I will do this if you do that? Or do you think that this is actually going to happen?
Well, it is happening. Next week, the Planning Council on Wednesday will approve the plan unless the government will withdraw from it. And I can assure you, Smotrich has devoted his life to building settlements and to prevent a Palestinian state. He did this, and the government is doing this not because of declarations by the European countries. This is just an excuse and a way to attract public attention and to say, I'm stronger than all the world, while actually I think that the recognition is now even more important in order to set the norm very clear that if we want a Palestinian state, any development of settlements is not legitimate.
OK. And if, as you predict, this gets the go-ahead on Wednesday, how long between getting the go-ahead on paper and construction actually beginning?
You know, in a normal pace, it will take some 2 years. But if the authorities want and they work very fast, we can see the bulldozers within a year. I mean, there is a lot of bureaucracy still there to do. But I believe that in 1 year, we might see the bulldozers on the ground.
This particular settlement, this E1 project, it was frozen for decades because of international opposition. What changed?
First of all, the American administration is very favorable of settlements. Only last week, the Speaker of the Congress House visited the settlements. And so it's hard to expect the Americans to put pressure to block such a plan. And also we have the most extremist government that we ever had, with the prime minister that is only interested in his survival as a prime minister and will give in everything to his coalition members and to Bezalel Smotrich, for instance, that is advocating for this. So this is why we see the government doing so much in order to destroy the potential construction and establishment of a Palestinian state. But it's not only E1, they are doing it all over the West Bank.
And so given the US apparent backing for this series of projects, is there any point in the international community once more turning around and saying, please stop doing this?
First of all, to say your opinion is very much important, also even for the public discourse in Israel, so that we will have some proportions of what is okay and what is wrong. But I believe that the international community, even without the US, has a lot to do and a lot of leverage over the state of Israel to say very loud and clear that settlements are not legitimate, not only by saying it, but also by avoiding support of settlements, avoiding trade with settlements, things of the sort that can really push Israel to choose. Do you want to stay with the settlements and be isolated, or to open yourself to the opportunity for peace and be part of the world?
Thanks for joining us, Hagit Ofran from the Peace Now Settlement Watch project in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Aviv Tatarsky is a researcher at the Ir Amim Organization, a non-profit focused on making Jerusalem a more equitable city for Israelis and Palestinians. I asked him how this new settlement would scuttle hopes for a two-state solution.
Right. Good afternoon. Any settlement is illegal and it makes things worse. But the E1 settlement is located deep in the heart of the West Bank and in the area of Jerusalem. It will create a situation where roughly 100,000 Israeli settlers live from the Green Line all the way to maybe 14, 15 kilometers beyond the Green Line. It's something very difficult to undo. Israel, of course, will not agree to undo this settlement. And then you don't have really anywhere for a Palestinian state. It breaks up because of the location. It breaks up the West Bank into a northern part and the southern part. And I think people in Germany are very much aware of how bad it is to break up a country. For Palestinians, it will not be possible to have a state this way.
Let's just understand this plan. I mean, this has been announced by Smotrich. He says that this plan is going into effect. But does it still need approval, or is it already a done deal?
Well, one important thing is that to understand is that Smotrich is taking the lead here, but this is something that is very convenient for the Israeli government. The whole Israeli government is behind this. Smotrich is taking the lead because he wants to show it to his supporters, and Netanyahu is taking maybe a back seat because he doesn't want to get the criticism, the pushback from the international community. But this is a move by the whole of the Israeli government and by Netanyahu itself. So this is something we all must understand.
But Smotrich was also talking about this as a response to certain countries promising to recognize a Palestinian state in September at the UN. Is that what this is? Is it just a threat, or they actually intend to carry this out?
No, it is something very, very serious, and we will see its implementation very soon. We have to understand that even before the construction begins, Israel is already working to uproot Palestinians who are living in this area of E1. There's several thousand Palestinians living in small communities in E1. Last week, Israeli authorities already distributed something like 20 demolition orders for structures in the area. We will see much more than that. And Smotrich has proven, he and the whole of the government have proven time and again that they are not just speaking. Exactly like he said in the quote you brought, they are working, they are doing action on the ground, and this must be taken very seriously. And the international community needs to understand that those who are recognizing now a Palestinian state, if they do not act in an effective way to stop Israel, those declarations or the vision of peace and the Palestinian state will not be possible.
We've been talking about the Israeli government. I wonder what the Israeli public feels about a move like this.
It's an excellent question. Basically, burying the possibility for a Palestinian state and annexing the West Bank means apartheid. There is no other way to go about it, that Israel chooses to eternally keep Palestinians under its military control without citizenship and so on. This is something very, very grave, not only first foremost because of the violation of Palestinian rights, but it is a very volatile situation, and we know that the Israeli government will use this in order to increase the violence. Palestinians will be suffering, Israelis will be suffering as well. And unfortunately, the Israeli public is not interested. Israelis are concerned now with other issues. This is something that the government is using actually.
Right.
And today in Israel, there is much more attention from media like you, foreign media, than from the Israeli public and the Israeli media.
I mean, you used the term apartheid there. I mean, it's a highly disputed term, and Israeli officials have rejected this. But I did want to ask you, I mean, since the war in Gaza began, Israel has also been in conflict with Iran, with Hezbollah in Lebanon, with the Houthis in Yemen, and arguably they have come out of these conflicts to their advantage. Do you think that therefore there is a momentum that the Israeli government sees is on its side and therefore pushing for a move such as this?
Definitely so. And Israel has demonstrated that it believes in the use of force to handle any sort of dispute or challenge or even threat. The big difference between the examples you gave with Hezbollah and Iran and so on and the Palestinians is that with the Palestinians, Israel is not combating a state. It is basically conducting a war against stateless people, defenseless people. And all the might of the Israeli state, which, by the way, some of this might is backed by the government of Germany, is being now directed towards millions of Palestinians who are basically standing defenseless. And if Israel has its way, the situation will be very dire.
I mean, there has been a pushback here from the German government as well, especially when it comes to weapons deliveries to Israel, for instance. But we'll leave it there for the moment. Aviv Tatarsky, researcher at the Ir Amim Organization in Jerusalem, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.